Alright guys, welcome back to another Dragon Ball Super video here with Kyle Chris, and today we're going to be going over a deck list for Dabura, Xeno Dabura. This is a very interesting leader. I don't know. I want this leader to be very good. I think the problem is it's the whole swap mechanic with this deck was just not really given a fair chance by Bandai. I just feel like there's too many requirements for it, but it is super fun to play. And I think that's one of the most important things about this deck. So I'm going to show you guys a list. It may be similar to some other lists you may have seen in some Discords and stuff like that, but I try to make it as unique as possible. I haven't really played this list so much. I've done some play testing with stuff. I've done some free play stuff, just as some locals and things like that. But the idea with this deck is probably to kill like turn 3, or to put enough pressure on your opponent to where they have to waste resources to survive turn 3, which is kind of the idea. So make sure you guys like and subscribe, hit the bell for notifications if you guys like the content, if you guys want to see more videos like this. As well, if you guys want to support the channel, got a Patreon link down below. You guys can check that out, see if you guys like anything on there. And we'll go with the leader here. So Dabura, when this card attacks, you look top 5 for a black evil wizard, black demon realm race, or black demon god card, add them to your hand, and then shuffle your deck. So essentially any of those card traits you can search for and add to your hand. There's no specific energy requirement, which is great. So most of our deck is going to be that. Awaken when you have 4 life or less, or your opponent's leader is flipped on its backside, essentially meaning that if your opponent's leader is awoken. Now they don't use specifically awaken because there's different forms of that, like launch technically isn't an awaken leader, it just kind of flips to its backside. So things like that, and if it's kind of just like future proofing this if they do release any more leaders that don't have an actual awaken effect, quote unquote, right? But when that happens, you draw 2 cards, and then you take life down to 4, essentially making you being able to draw quite a bit on your awaken turn. And on this side, when you attack, you draw a card, and then you have 2 different activate main / battle effects. So the first one is activate main for 1 black. You play up to 1 black unison with no specific cost and 20k power from your drop area with a marker on it in rest mode. At the end of the turn, you send that card to the owner's warp. I think they errated this. The idea was they wanted to make sure that that card went to the warp regardless of if it went to the drop area afterwards or not, right? And activate battle is once per turn, spirit boost for no energy. This card gains 6k power for the battle. The idea with this is that you can use it to gain an extra 5k, so you can push for more damage, essentially hopefully going for gain. That's kind of the whole mood with this deck, so to speak. So there's a leader for you, and we'll go over the I'm trying to fix my light here. There we go, that's a little bit better. So we have the unisons here. So we have let's see here, we got 4 Dark King Magic Dabura, and then 1 Toa Dark Demon Realm Scientist. So the idea with these cards is I wanted to run enough unisons so I could see one turn 1 every single time, and that's sort of the concept that we went here with. I think this is a 50, maybe 51 card deck. So both of these are 20Ks and 0 specific cost, so they are playable off of this effect. All right, let's try that again. What's up guys, Kyle Chris here, bringing you guys another Dragon Ball Super video, and today we're going to be going over a Dabura Xeno deck profile. A very interesting leader. I don't know how good it's actually going to be, if at all, but it is incredibly fun to play, and definitely has some future stuff that it could potentially work with, just because it works with all of the Demon Realm stuff. So make sure you guys like and subscribe, hit the bell for notifications if you guys like these videos, if you guys like the content. Also, there's a Patreon down below. Go ahead, check out the link, see if there's anything that you enjoy, and that's also another way to support the channel. So Dabura, when you attack, you search top 5 for a evil wizard, demon realm race, or demon god that is black. No specific energy cost, which means you can grab anything, which is very, very good. The awaken when you're at 4 life or less, or your opponent's on the backside. So essentially, if they're awoken, they didn't specifically use awaken as the effect, just in case there's any leaders who can get to the backside that's not an awaken effect, i.e. for example would be launch. It's going to be one of them, and who knows with this whole Zenkai boost thing if there's actually going to be an awaken side, quote unquote, right? But when that happens, you draw 2, and then you strike life down to 4, essentially meaning you can draw 3 or 4 cards on that awaken turn, if not more, which can be quite a big boost to your hand size. On this side, when you attack, you draw a card, and you have 2 different activate main / battle effects. So you have 1 activate main for 1 energy, 1 black energy. You play up to 1 20k power unison from your drop area with no specific cost, with 1 marker on in rest mode. Then at the end of the turn, that card is sent to the owner's warp. The reason for this is they want to make sure that it said, like the whole idea was like if this card left the battle area, it's changing areas. So then, like the wording wise, technically it probably wouldn't work. So they changed it just so that, they errated it just to make sure that it worked. The activate battle, once per turn spirit boost for 1. And this card gains 6k for the battle. The idea with this is so you can push for game. That's it. That's the whole concept of this leader. So you want to push. It's a very, very aggro deck. The idea is probably by turn 3, you want to be able to push all of your opponent's resources out of their hand. So that way, turn 4, you can potentially just kill them then. Or just kill them on turn 3. Which, depending on the deck, you definitely can kill them on turn 3. So we'll go over the unison package first, which is very important. So 4 Dark King Mecha Dabura, and then 1 Toa. All of these are 20k. All these are just 20k specific, zero specific cost, so that the way they're playable off of this effect here. Now the Toa here, this permanent cannot attack if it has 2 markers or less, so it needs to have 3 markers on it so it can attack. Auto, when one of your opponent's battle cards is removed from their battle area by a skill or KO, you add a marker to this card. It has 2 different activate mains. The first one is you pitch a card from your hand, and then you warp a battle card on your opponent's board 3k or less, or 3 power or less, right? 3 cost, whatever it is. The other effect is -4. You take control over one of your opponent's battle cards. This is there as just to make sure that you have a unison. This is not the best one out of the 2 that you want to run, but it's just an extra one since we can't run more than 5 of the Dark King Mecha Dabura. Now this card, in power 2, permanent can attack if it has 3 more markers or 3 or few markers. So this one needs 4 and actually to attack. And then auto, once per turn, when you play a black demon realm race using a swap skill, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards 3 or less and send it to the warp. It's pretty good. Bottom effect, activate main, choose 1 card in your hand and bottom deck it, then draw a card. What's very cool about this card, and I don't know why I didn't realize it at first, is because this has no specific cost and an empower effect. Technically, you can play this card for free off of an empower effect. So if you have one of these in play and it has 2 markers on it, you can play this for free from your hand and then just give it the 2 markers. And then now it comes in with 2 markers. Why that's good is it allows you to essentially this just allows you to kind of mess around with your unisons, right? Also, you can, if you have a unison in play, you can actually activate main, play a unison with 1 marker on it, and it will come in and empower and take off the markers off the other unison. So there's some very interesting plays that you can do. So like if you have one of these in play, it's got 3 markers on it, you swing with it, you do whatever, right? Then you spirit boost 1, then you can play this out for free in power 2, and then it goes up to 2 markers. So it's actually pretty cool you can do that, just so you can use that energy for other things in your deck. And then the final card for the unison package is going to be Attack of the Dark Empire. So I'm not a huge fan of this card in other decks, but this deck I do feel like it's good just because I really think need the unison turn 1. So this card, it's if your leader is a demon god, you look at the top 7 cards of your deck, and then you either add one of the Evil Wizard, Demon Realm, or Demon God cards to your hand, or you, if you don't have a unison in play, you get to play a unison out. 20k power and no specific cost. You can essentially play out any of these off your top 7. So, if for whatever reason you don't grab a unison off your mulligan, you have this that you can essentially use it for the same thing. Also, you can also keep one of these in your hand if you do end up killing your unison, or if your opponent kills your unison, you can play this and then play the unison out again for 1 from the top 7, and then you're good to go. So that is going to be the unison set. And then we have kind of the big engine of the deck, which is going to be the Poutine engine, which we run a 4-4-2 split. We don't run the promo. I don't think it's necessary. I think the new barrier one that's going to come out that has like plays out the tokens or whatever, that one's actually probably better. But this is probably what you're working with here. So the Poutine, you play for 1, cycle top 3 cards, add a card, an Evil Wizard, Demon God, Demon Realm Race, or one of these specific unisons to your hand. And then you can Spirit Boost and play this out here. The Umbral Might is definitely the best one. Comes into play, plays a token. You have your token here. And then you pop your token during the activate battle step to give this card 10k. it restands and draws you a card. So it's essentially a 25k swing that draws you a card, and then a 15k blocker or another 15k swing. These are amazing. It also is a Dark Overwhelm for 1 energy and 3 specific cost. So if you have 3 black cards in your warp, you can play this out from off of the Overwhelm effect too. So just for essentially, like, you can do this for 2 energy play. You play the poutine, swap into one of these, swing twice, and then tap 1 to play this off the Overwhelm, and then swing 2 more times. Very, very powerful. And then 2 of these Dark Sorceress. This is for essentially other aggro matchups. So if you can play this out, get this out on turn 2, and you don't hit your play on turn 2, or you want to wait till turn 3, you can play this out on turn 2. It's got barrier. Your opponent plays a battle card using a skill, you can tap a battle card on the board. Or if they activate a counter skill, you can choose a battle card on their board and tap it down. So it's got barrier, so it's just going to sit on board. Just allows you just to essentially buy a damage or buy a turn, so you can kind of stop your opponent from doing stuff. Got that. Next is the big playmaker of the deck, obviously, which is going to be King Summon. So you tap 2, you crit a life, you warp a card from your opponent's drop area, and you send the battle card from your opponent's drop area, which means you can use this against U7, and it's not bad. And you play out 2 Demon Realm or Evil Wizard cards with energy cost 2 or less, and different names that are not Magic Dabura, and you can activate this card for the duration of the turn. So essentially, this card allows you to play out a bunch of 2-drops. And the 2-drops that we run in this deck, very simple. 3 of the new Toa, 3 of the Dabura TP, and then 1 Old Gravy card here. So the idea is you can play out of any of these. These are 2 of your best targets, but this card actually does come in handy later on in the game. So Toa, 15k body, does the same effect as the 1-drop Poutine. You search top 3, add a Demon Realm to your hand, Demon God, or Evil Wizard, or a Unison, and then bottom deck the other cards. And then has swap 3. When Spirit Boost 1, you bottom deck a card, and you play a Spirit Boost card, right? Dabura here is actually very good. It's actually very good if you end up going, I mean, regardless on 2 energy, your opponent's probably going to swing at some point with their leader. So when you play this, your opponent may choose a card in their hand to warp it. If they don't, you can choose a battle card 4 or less or their leader in rest mode, and then it cannot attack next turn, essentially making this a version of like the 4-drop Yellow Sin, which is incredibly powerful, right? Now you're probably asking, well, why are you running 3 of these? Well, it's because off the Spirit Boost effect, we're going to add this card back to our hand, and then if you are running the Magic Dabura Unison, you're just going to bottom deck that card anyways, because it's not really useful in your hand anymore at that point. This also has the same effect. This swaps into a 4-drop Dabura, and for 1 Spirit Boost, you bottom deck a card. Gravy here, when this card attacks or you combo with this card, if your leader's black, you choose 2 cards in your warp and place them back in your drop area. What's nice about this is that any card you end up putting in your warp, you can add back, because it says card, specifically Unisons, right? So since this, our leader effect, ends up putting the Unison in the warp, if we combo or attack with this, we're able to then put that card back from our warp into our drop area, so we can play it back out for the 1 energy. You only need 1 because it's not going to come up too much, but it's there just as a safety net, and also as a 15k attacker that can just set up some overwhelm stuff for you. And kind of a really weak version of like the Trunks SR from this set, right? So we're going to put the Gravy away here, and then we're going to talk about the swap targets for this. So the first one is going to be the Demon God Dabura Umbral Might. This is going to be for the Dabura card. Essentially what this card is, it is a Dark Overwhelm 4 for 3 energy. You're never going to play it off of that. If you are, you're playing the deck wrong. That's just not what you want to do. But it is something you can do, I suppose. And what this card says is when this card is played, you draw 1 card, and your opponent warps a card from their hand, and this is a 20k body. So essentially for 2 energy, you get a 15k body, a 10k body that's essentially potentially warping a card from your opponent's hand, and then you play this, and then you warp another card from your opponent's hand, and you draw a card. And so what's nice is that, and this something to keep in mind, is that you do bottom deck off these effects, right? And that is kind of a big problem. You would think, oh my god, I'm wasting a card from my hand. That kind of sucks, right? Well, technically, you're not really wasting a card. You're bottom decking a card, and you're adding a card back to your hand. So that's kind of, that's neutral there, right? But then you're playing this from your hand, which then is minusing a card, and then you're drawing another card. So you're essentially just going equal, just for more swings. And this card is incredibly powerful early. Essentially, since you can possibly warp 2 cards from your opponent's hand, makes this card just very, very valuable. So that's the evolve target for that. The evolve target for the Toa is going to be Demon God Toa Umbral Might. This card, same thing, comes into play. When this card is played from your hand, you draw a card. So again, you get to draw a card off of your bottom decking effect, which is good. And then your opponent may choose up to 2 cards from their hand and or battle cards on board and send them to the owner's warp. If they do not, you can choose one of your opponent's unisons with 4 markers or more and gain control over it. Generally, you're not going to be doing that. You're going to really play this card because it is a 15k dual attacker that draws you a card. That's important, right? So essentially now, if you can see kind of what we're working with here, you're playing 2 battle cards for 2 energy, right? You're playing a 15k and a 10k. That's 2 attacks. You play a 15k that draws you a card and swings twice. That's 4 attacks, right? And then you're playing a 20k that draws you a card and warps a card from your opponent's hand. That's 5 attacks. So for 2 energy, you're getting 5 attacks. That's not including your leader, whatever else that you can do, like Overwhelm, Rise, or whatever, right? That's pretty powerful, right? This also, like I said, later in the game, if you get to mid-game and you can play this on your opponent, potentially steal their unison too, which just adds a whole other level of things that your deck can do. Go over the rest of the utility of the deck. That's kind of the main portion of the deck, is using the King 7 engine. We have 2 Super Saiyan 3 Tag Team Gohans. This card's incredibly powerful. 15k blocker, you can only have one of these on board. Technically has a, like the old form of unique, essentially. When a black battle card is removed from your battle area by a skill, activate the skill and you may play this card from your hand. So essentially, whenever you activate any of your swap targets, so whether it's from Toa, whether it's from Dabura, whether it's from the Poutine there as well, that's a skill. That's the battle card being removed by a skill, so you can play this for free, essentially. So when you swap into this from the other Dabura, you can play this from your hand, so you're getting 2 battle cards on board for 0 energy, a 15k and a 20k, and we're using this to swing. We're not generally using this card just to sit there and, you know, act as a blocker. We're playing it because it's a free play, right? And free plays, we all know that Bandai, after a while, for if free plays become a problem, they ban them. So we're just gonna play this just for now. And I don't think this card will ever get banned, just because it's not the best card, but it is a free play 15k, so that is, you know, really cool, obviously. So we got that. 2 Realm of the God Crimson Hero Strikes. It's in here because it is combo power. It's a 10k for 1 energy. You also can use it to warp big battle cards on board if your opponent plays stuff early. Also, you can tap 1 on defense. This is a 10k combo that draws a card, and you can mill up to 3 cards. Basically kind of setting you up for some overwhelm targets if you want to do some sort of overwhelm on your next turn. But this essentially is a 10k combo on offense for 1 energy. Just allows you to push for a little more damage, or just play defensively if you need to. 4 of the super combos, the Vegeta. Now, this card here actually would end up being removed if this was set 17. So in set 17, there is a Gravy super combo that is a Demon Gnome race, so which means it's searchable off of all your cards. And it just says if your life is at 4 or less, you draw a card. The reason why we don't run the Toa, which is kind of the same, it's very similar card, is because you need Sparking 5. And we do have Overwhelm in this deck, so it's not something that we're potentially going to have. But just being able to use that card at 4 life and it's searchable is definitely a better card than the Vegeta here, just because Vegeta is not searchable. We want to try to keep our deck as consistent as possible. So this and the Tag Team card are really the only cards there that are not really, you know, searchable at all in this deck. As opposed to like maybe like a few other cards, right? But like this card, particularly because it's super combo, we want it to be searchable, so Gravy would definitely be the target. So if you're playing this deck in the next set, you know, play Gravy instead of Vegeta. That's just what we got right now. We have the Support of the Dark Empire. This is your token negate. Play a token. It's a homicidal clones token, so it's a 5k combo with a blocker. And then as well, you have your Poutine effect. If you guys don't know, the Poutine effect will trigger off of these, so you can block with one of these, activate battle, restand this, draw a card, pop this. You know, you have extra combo power and an extra blocker here, so that effect is also there as well. We only run 3 because we don't need a ton of negates. 2 Champa because we are an aggro deck and we want to make sure that we hit a Champa. If we draw too many Champas, we can bottom deck them off of our unison effect. So it doesn't really matter too much. We just need to make sure that we see exactly at least 1 so we can go for game. And then we have our Overwhelm package here, which we have 2 Demigras and 1 Fighting Against Fate. The reason why we play just these is because our secret rare is going to be Rabilu. And Rabilu is on 4 energy. You can tap to 2. Overwhelm 8, you play this as a 40k double strike, and you get to play out 2 battle cards, energy cost 6 or less with different names that have Overwhelm in the text. Both these have your Overwhelm. That's what you want to run, right? this is how this kind of deck works, right? So like you play this, right, and you play both of these in from your board. Demigra, you won't get the first effect, which is when you play this card using Overwhelm, you draw a card and warp a battle card on board, but you do get the swing where you warp a battle card from your opponent's hand. And this card is just now a 25k dual attacker. You also have a 40k here. This card actually has the ability also too where you can pop a battle card with Overwhelm and negate an attack. So you also can pop these two if you absolutely need to on your defensive turn. But it's just there as, you know, as just as an emergency. But also the fact is that this card's searchable off of all of your Demon Realm searches, including your leader, which makes this very, very cool. It's like, okay, I can search out my secret rare. That's a very cool effect for, you know, decks to run. So like, is it the best secret rare in the game? Absolutely not. Pan is probably a better secret rare overall, but this being searchable does give it some, you know, some good, you know, good vibes, some very good feedback. I think it's pretty, you know, safe to run in the deck. So that's what I have for you guys today for my Dabura deck. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the deck. I think too bright there. I do think this deck is very interesting. I'll play it at some of the locals for some fun. Competitive, I don't know if I'm the person to pilot this deck and make it competitive, but I'm sure there have been people. I know someone topped with it in one of the events. I think it was in Europe or something like that, but it's a cool deck. It may be a deck that you'll see on the channel at some point, but it is a black deck, so I want to make sure that I played it and kind of built a list that I'm pretty comfortable with. So thank you guys again for watching. Make sure you guys like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.